Good evening and welcome. It's 8 o'clock. You're watching the news. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Let's kickstart with the headlines tonight. The race for the billionth dose picks up pace. Good news of the day coming in after massive fall over 8.3 billion doses today. That also means more relaxations coming in after zero deaths in Mumbai. Now Maharashtra in its latest meeting post that eases out more relaxations from restaurants to gyms. More relaxations coming soon. In Jammu and Kashmir, though, the situation is grim. Taken away by the police at night for safety. Now, migrant workers are worried but thank neighbours for help. This as the Poonch encounter continues in its 8th day. Heavy blasts heard today. Is there a festival bonanza coming in? Some relief around the corner? Well, NDTV picking up from top sources that the central government thinking about cuts in fuel prices. It was rail roko today. Over 40 trains cancelled. SAC union minister says the farm unions amidst a power crunch. 75 coal trains also held up. The latest in the flood situation, Kerala tragedy continues to unfold. Though no rain there today, a funeral for 6, all from one family. In other parts of the country, even in Uttarakhand, a red alert has been given out. A record rain recorded in Delhi as well. The poor, however, hardest hit as it impacts all those crops. Caught man already in jail for 2 rapes and 1 murder. Today gets another conviction. Life sentence. And stock markets hit a fresh all-time high. Sensex gains over 400 points. Nifty ends above 18,450 mark. Let's begin with some good news tonight. And India reported the lowest daily COVID cases in almost 8 months now. Vaccine, remember, another piece of news, will finally be considered for WHO clearance this month. And vaccines, well, India is set to hit a milestone there, a milestone of 1 billion doses. And the race to that billionth dose has picked up already. Now, after a massive fall that we had seen in the vaccination process, India jabbed over 8.3 billion people today. So that's good news coming in. But look at those top 5 states. And we've got the percentage of population fully vaccinated there for you. Overall in the country, 20.3% fully vaccinated. Kerala tops the chart in terms of fully vaccinated people, 36% over there. Gujarat, 35.3%. Delhi 34, Jammu and Kashmir 33.3, and then there is Andhra Pradesh 30.5. But let's also look at the lowest performing states over there in terms of fully vaccinated people. Overall, again, by the mark of 20.3, Assam is at 18.3, Tamil Nadu at 17.8, Jharkhand 12.2. No prices for guessing. Bihar and Uttar Pradesh both at the bottom of that chart, 11.3 and 10.7% over there. All right, Alok Pandey joins us for the very latest. To be fair, a higher population means more time that will be needed to vaccinate these people as well. But Alok Pandey, as the government is also prepping up for this massive billionth dose to be vaccinated. Lots of preparations have been talked about. This is likely to be a massive PR exercise for the government as well. How exactly are things getting up in UP as we count down to that number?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Sonal. Even I was looking at the COVID dashboard as you were speaking. And we are very close. We are at 98 crores and 58 lakhs, etc. So it's a matter of time in the next 2 or 3 days. In fact, I am outside the residence of the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister. You can see that there's a massive billboard that's come up here. I think Vineet will just show you. This is basically about COVID, about vaccinations. For instance, this graphic that's coming up says, "Aapka bhi number aayega," etc. So there's been a lot of publicity. There's been a lot of publicity around the COVID vaccination here. But I think we must also look at these numbers with a bit of balance, you know. For instance, for Uttar Pradesh, like you said, it is India's most populous state, so therefore the vaccination numbers will also be higher. Now they've managed to give at least one dose to more than 11 crore people, which is more than half of Uttar Pradesh's population. And that is no mean achievement, it has to be lauded. But at the same time, the graphic that you were reading out is also very important to see, that Uttar Pradesh has just 10% of fully vaccinated people, which means that the most protection will come when you are going to vaccinate everyone with 2 doses, right? And that percentage for Uttar Pradesh still is 10.7%. We've been reporting on vaccination in Uttar Pradesh through the last few months, and we found that this percentage is growing very slowly, and that's an area of concern. How that will be addressed also remains to be seen. Beyond that, I think the celebrations will be like you would have in any BJP-ruled state. On the day that this happens, tomorrow or day after, doctors will be felicitated, nurses, perhaps the people who are going in for their vaccination, there'll be photo ops for them too. The Chief Minister might go somewhere. He's in the past indulged in these photo ops. So all of that is happening, but I think we should not lose sight of the bigger picture, which is that how soon can India and Uttar Pradesh in particular, because this is India's most populous state, give 2 doses of the vaccine to as many people as possible.
All right, we are looking at that question also. Alok, thanks so much for adding in that perspective, and we're all counting down to that number. Let's see who exactly is that billionth dose individual as well. But more good news tonight, and mostly relief, frankly, for Mumbaikars, in fact for all of Maharashtra, as timings for shops and restaurants have been extended as well in Maharashtra. The decision came after the COVID task force had a meeting today with the Chief Minister, and Saurabh, also just a day after we saw no deaths being reported in Mumbai for the first time since the pandemic. That's expected to bring some cheer. How are people responding to this?
Well, it's definitely a milestone. Mumbai was always going to be the most difficult city when it came to tackling the pandemic. And for the government, it believes that now the worst is probably behind us, with vaccinations really going well in the city. They believe that it's time to now look at rebuilding the economy. And one of the worst sufferers in the pandemic have been restaurants, because they've been subjected to closures or restricted timings. Now, right now, a place like this, which is almost, at about 30% capacity in terms of crowds, will shut by 10. So the scope for business would be limited. Now, I have with me the person who runs this restaurant. Ma'am, I'd like to ask you, when the government decides to increase timings, which they've decided, it'll be known in a day or two, how does it help your business?
So, like the hospitality industry, as we all know, has suffered a lot of losses. We employ a lot of people. So, to make up for the loss, it will be important to extend the timings. And people usually don't step out of the house for dinner, until 9:30. So we've been having customers who come at 10 and 10:15 and 10:30, and we have to ask them to leave because we are shut at that time. So it will definitely help us to make up the loss,
right,
and to employ also more people and up our business. Yeah.
So that's perhaps the sentiment at restaurants, and that's perhaps how you will see people reacting when these relaxations and the nature of these relaxations, at least the timings of extension, are announced.
All right, and a key thing to remember here, in fact, not to forget, is that even with these numbers, you've got to wear your mask, you've got to get yourself jabbed if you haven't already, and maintain as much precautions if you want these relaxations to continue and if you want these trends to continue on the positive note. Thanks, Saurabh, for joining us with the very latest on that. All right, let's shift our focus to Kashmir now, where the situation remains quite tense. Yesterday, 2 more labourers from Bihar were gunned down by terrorists, taking the total number of civilians killed in these targeted attacks in Jammu and Kashmir in just this month alone to 11. The situation was today discussed by Home Minister Amit Shah as well in the top security establishment in the country, especially since the killings in the valley have now spread panic, led to several other migrant labourers leaving the valley. All this happening as the Poonch encounter, let's not forget about that, continued for the 8th straight day. Heavy blasts there heard today as well.
On a rainy morning in Srinagar, the children of Vikas Chaudhary, a labourer from Bihar, are trembling in cold as they wait for taxi to leave Kashmir, leaving behind a life of 18 years. Vikas's neighbour Arvind Kumar, a Golgappa seller, is the latest victim of targeted killings in Kashmir.
बिहारी लोग को सबको मारता है, काटता है, बोलता है कि यहाँ से निकलो। एक ही मकान में हम लोग रहते थे।
Vikas's colleague and neighbor Ashish says they were given 3,000 rupees by the landlord for their bus fare, an example of the kindness of local people. But the repeated terror attacks have panicked their families back home.
कश्मीर लोग तो बढ़िया है, लोग हम लोग को तो भाड़ा भी दिया, 2-3 हज़ार रुपये दिया कश्मीर लोग की, घर जाओ कोई बात नहीं है। घर में बहुत परेशानी है, वो बोलता है कि घर आ जाओ, वो हालत सही होगा फिर कश्मीर जाना, इसीलिए हम लोग घर जाने सर।
The response from the security forces remains confusing. They denied this advisory going viral on social media, asking police to carole migrants in their areas, in secure locations. But we found migrant workers being kept in secure locations, like in this government school. They say they were brought here last night.
सोए थे अभी खाना खा के, तो ये गए और रात को मतलब वहाँ से बोले कि आपको थाना जाना पड़ेगा। और घर में सिर्फ मैं ही अकेले कमाने वाला हूँ, क्योंकि बिहार में उतना काम वाम भी नहीं चलता है, सिर्फ मैं ही घर में कमाने वाला। मेरे छोटे छोटे 2 बच्चे हैं। ऐसी हालात हम लोग को कभी नहीं झेलना पड़ा था। अब रात में मुझे पुलिस यहाँ पे लाए हैं, रात से बैठे हैं हम लोग। यहाँ बैठ के क्या करेंगे, खाना भी खाना है, सब कुछ करना है।
The spate of attacks have come at a time when army is engaged in one of the longest and toughest anti-terrorist operations in Poonch, in Jammu. 9 soldiers, including 2 officers, have been killed in action since Monday last week. Today, heavy explosion and gunfire was heard as army pounded suspected terrorist targets in the dense forests. The governor of Meghalaya and former J&K governor Satyapal Malik took a dig at government for the spurt in attacks.
मेरे रहते हुए कोई टेररिस्ट श्रीनगर के 550-100 किलोमीटर के दायरे में घुस नहीं सकता था। अब तो श्रीनगर शहर में मार रहे हैं लोगों को।
On both sides of Pir Panjal in Jammu and Kashmir, situation has taken a dramatic turn, where army is engaged in one of the longest anti-militancy operations in Poonch, where they have suffered heavy casualties. Spate of targeted attacks in the valley has forced many migrant laborers to flee. Minorities are living in a constant state of fear. Many wonder how come the situation has reached to this tipping point. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Now, today was also the day when a 6-hour rail roko agitation by the farm unions over demand of sacking of Union Minister Ajay Mishra was held. Remember, Ajay Mishra's son has been arrested for the murder of 4 farmers in Lakhimpur area, and the incident, the really unfortunate incident that happened on the 3rd of October. Now, this rail roko had a mixed impact, mostly in 3 states, Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh. The railways, however, said that around 160 trains in these 3 states were affected. 43 of them cancelled following the protest.
43 passenger trains cancelled and a further 50 partially cancelled as farmers protested on railway tracks across Western UP, Haryana and Punjab over their demand for the dismissal and arrest of Union Minister Ajay Mishra. The son of the junior minister in charge of law and order is in jail for allegedly murdering 4 farmers in UP's Lakhimpur earlier this month. The UP police and farmers jostling against each other on the railway track in Bulandshahar's Khurja, a major railway junction. Farmers stalled the Lucknow-Delhi Gomti Express for 5 minutes before the police got the tracks cleared.
जब तक अजय टैनी गिरफ्तार नहीं होता, ये आंदोलन जारी रहेंगे, इस तरह के प्रोग्राम होते रहेंगे.
Elsewhere in UP, there was heavy security and even barricading around railway stations to prevent farmers from getting to railway tracks. Similar scenes from Haryana's Jhajjar to Punjab's border district of Firozpur, where farmers blocked the railway track at multiple locations.
Right now on New Delhi Chandigarh railway track we can show you that these are the visuals here. They have put up a banner on this railway track which goes towards Chandigarh, and farm union members, leaders from different unions have sat here on the railway track.
But the government appears unwilling to remove the minister. And in Lakhimpur, the police started investigating the other murder case where 2 BJP workers and a driver were beaten to death after the Thar SUV ran over farmers by recording witness statements. With Mohammad Ghazali, Sameer Ali and Prateek Srivastav, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Petrol at 100 rupees a litre, we've had that for a while now. Diesel also over 100 rupees in parts of a country. LPG, CNG, PNG, cooking gas, all up, having a huge burden on the already pandemic-struck common man. But now with Diwali and also elections around the corner, is some relief on its way? Well, Sunil Prabhu finds out from top government sources.
Samajwadi Party workers protesting, attacking the BJP government in Lucknow against the steep hike in LPG or cooking gas cylinders, which are up nearly 200 rupees this year, as well as petrol and diesel prices, which are at a record high. They are not alone. Every single opposition party have been protesting, and even within the BJP, the pressure is mounting to give relief to the consumers. Top government sources have indicated the government is working actively and engaging with the finance ministry to try and bring down the prices of petroleum products. They want both the centre as well as states together to reduce prices. They also indicate that they are actively trying to leverage India's position of being the world's third largest consumer to reduce international prices of crude and would be happy at a basket of 70 per dollar rather than the present 85 per barrel. Sources say talks are on with oil companies to ensure LPG prices are compensated. With elections round the corner, the political pressure is mounting and the government is working at some way forward to try and reduce the burden of the common man before they go to vote early next year. In New Delhi, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
All right, let's take a look at the latest situation in the rain, which has really created havoc almost in all parts of the country. Let's begin with Kerala first, where the tragedy there unfolding. 23 people lost their lives, 6 of them from one family alone. But it's not just Kerala. If you look at a pan-India situation, there is a red alert in Uttarakhand. There has been record rain in Delhi as well. In fact, a rain forecast has been given for all states except Gujarat. What exactly is the reason behind this? Is climate change to be looked at? The next report explores.
In Kottayam, a funeral ceremony of a family of 6, including 3 daughters, the eldest of them just 13, and a 65-year-old grandmother. They are among the 24 bodies recovered from Kerala's Idukki and Kottayam after unexpected heavy rainfall and landslides on Saturday. In a contrast from the disaster and gloom here in Alapura, Akash and Aishwarya are hoping to start a new journey. A huge cooking vessel serves as a makeshift boat, so the couple can get to their own wedding venue.
Kerala is gearing up for another spell of possibly heavy showers from October 20th, and an expert panel has been set up to take critical decisions with respect to the rising water levels in reservoirs as well as rivers.
Kerala has witnessed heavy to very heavy downpour during last 2 to 3 days, resulting in widespread flooding, landslide and mudslide. These type of rains are also very rare in the month of October for Kerala.
Rains left Delhi's Ghazipur Mandi completely waterlogged, sinking the prospects of sellers at the vegetable and fruit wholesale market.
परेशानी है जहाँ हम 50-60 नग बेचते थे आज 5 नग बेचते हैं जो जीवन में सब जोड़ा था सब खा के बैठकर कुछ कोरोना काल में कुछ नोटबंदी काल में जब रात को 3 बजे से खड़े हैं अभी देख रहे हैं मुंह किसी ग्राहक का कोई कस्टमर आया
With Shanakshi Chakrabarti in Ghazipur, Sneha Koshi from Thiruvananthapuram for NDTV.
Dera Sacha Sauda head Gurmeet Ram Rahim and 4 others were sentenced today for life imprisonment in the murder of the manager Ranjit Singh nearly 2 decades ago. Ram Rahim will have to pay 31 lakh fine. 50% of that amount will go to Ranjit Singh's family as well. A 6th accused in this case died a year ago, remember, but Ram Rahim, who has already been lodged in a Rohtak jail since 2017, that was in conviction for the rape of 2 of his followers. This is the 3rd such sentence on him. Meanwhile, police has tightened the security in the Panchkula and Sirsa area in anticipation of a possible violence after the court handed down the sentence.
हमारे परिवार के लिए बहुत बड़ा दिन है आज की लंबे टाइम के बाद बहुत इंसाफ मिला। आज परिवार के लिए बहुत बड़ा दिन है। आज हमारे जो दादाजी ने इतने समय से संघर्ष कर रहा था, लड़ाई लड़ रहे थे, उनको इंसाफ मिला। बस अगर वो होते और अच्छी बात थी।
The stock markets, meanwhile, hit a fresh all-time high today, continuing with the momentum seen in the past week as well, on the back of strength on select metal and information bases. Now, BSE Sensex ended up 61,766. NSE ended up over 18,477. And on the stock-specific front, you have Infosys, Tata Steel, Tech Mahindra, top the gainers there. And ICICI Bank, ITC, Maruti Suzuki were all the other significant gainers in BSE as well. Reliance Industry, meanwhile, ended the day at 2,705 over there after hitting a 52-week high. And in the process, the Reliance Industries market cap has also surpassed 18.50 lakh crore mark over there. Meanwhile, news from China, not that great. Well, China's economy grew at the slowest pace in this year in the 3rd quarter, hurt by the power shortages, supply bottlenecks and the sporadic COVID-19 outbreaks and the rising heat as well on the policymakers amidst the rising jitters over the property sector. Now, data released today showed that the GDP grew 4.9% in the July-September from an earlier, the weakest pace since the 3rd quarter of 2020 and slowing from 7.9% in the 2nd quarter as well. Now, that marked a further deceleration from the 18.3% expansion in the 1st quarter in a year-on-year growth rate.